Hi, welcome to Pause Uni's For Students by Students podcast. I'm your host, Nola, and this is a podcast where we sit down with students and have conversations about mental and emotional health. In this episode, we're joined by Priya, a practitioner at Pause Uni, and Samirah, a student of the University of Birmingham, and we're talking about exam stress. Now, the stresses of exams are relevant to every single university student. So, listen up, because I really think you're about to get something super helpful.
Hi, my name's Mumina, and I've been joined by Samirah, who is a third-year biomed student. Hi, Samirah.
Hello.
Hi. So we're here today to discuss stress. So stress around exams, stress around assessment times, what it looks like, perhaps what you do, and really just have a talk about it. So, Samirah, is it something that you find a stressful period?
Definitely. I mean, who likes exams?
Well, yeah. So is it just exams that you find stressful, or would you?
All of them. You're like in a constant loop of stress, to be honest. From the first, well, at least not the first week, like from the second week of the semester down to the end, you're just constantly like thinking about deadlines, thinking about next papers, this essay, that presentation. It's just constantly on your mind.
And do you find the stress is different depending on whether it's an exam or whether it's a piece of coursework that needs to be submitted?
For my course, not really. They all feel like exams to me at the end of the day. I guess deadlines are a bit better because you get to put like your own like little pizzazz and you're not like pressured in the moment in a timed exam. But at the end of the day, an assessment is an assessment. So I will be stressed over it, and I think almost everyone can relate to that.
Okay. No, I understand that. And what does stress look like to you? Like how does that sort of present itself?
Most times throughout the term, it's like very obvious anxiety and very obvious like stress. Like you're just like, oh my God, I need to get things done. Sometimes, especially for me, when it's like closer to the deadline, it goes into two phases. I go into either like full on study mode, I'm talking like 10 hours a day, like in the library, in the med school, just like on the laptop, on the iPad, just jotting away. And then sometimes it's completely nothing. Like I'm just like silently freaking out in my head. And I'm just procrastinating. I'm doing everything. I'm cleaning, I'm cooking, but anything but reading. Yet I still feel guilt from not reading and not studying.
And how long would those sort of periods go? So those periods of
They're very
procrastination.
on and off, honestly. They go like I can go a week of completely studying, just studious all the time, and then like 2 more weeks of just constant guilt in my head and like
Where you feel
procrastinating. Yeah.
And what about sort of other factors when you're sort of in that sort of heightened state of emotion? Does it have an impact on things like your sleep or your sort of food,
Oh,
your
definitely.
interactions with people?
I find that like when I have a deadline, especially when it's like really oncoming, everything else feels like an effort. So going to bed seems like wasting time. Having cooking food seems like wasted time. Everything feels like I'm wasting time instead of studying. And obviously that ends up affecting like your sleep schedules, your eating and things like that. I guess just to help out, you just have to have like a little reminder in your head that okay, if you take 10 minutes, to have a snack, have a meal, you take 2 hours to take a nap, you can still get everything done.
So I guess it's being a little bit prepared and planning ahead.
Yeah. I mean, everybody says they're gonna study from the first day of the term, but nobody actually does that. Things end up happening. While the deadline's like far away, you think, okay, I've got time, until you don't have time.
Yeah.
But I'll still be that person that says like, I want to study from the first day in. And, then you have time to have breaks and, relax and not really stress about getting the content in. But, that doesn't always work.
Yeah.
We're kids and we like to have fun.
Yeah, I think perhaps it's a case of where at the start of the semester everybody starts with the best of intentions, where they
Yeah.
think we're going to get really into it and stay on top of things, not fall behind, get all the reading done, make a start on assessments early. But in reality, it doesn't always happen like that, does
Yeah,
it?
and
And that's
it's
life.
yeah, that's
Yeah,
just how it is.
yeah,
Sometimes it's not even like your fault. I found like I wanted to go further in the beginning of the semester, but like my content hasn't like taught me as much, so I can't really go as
Oh,
much,
oh,
you
that's
know.
really
So
interesting.
and then I get
Yeah,
discouraged because I'm like, oh, I'm ahead of the class,
yeah.
and then I start procrastinating and chilling out for like a week, 2 weeks, and then
Oh,
suddenly the deadline's like 5 days away and I
that
have barely anything
yeah.
done.
I think that's a really interesting point you raise about sort of the pace that you're working at. So initially, where you might work at, you're feeling that you're working at a steady pace, but then you're feeling that your sort of level of study is perhaps gone beyond the content of the module. And so what it means is then you almost have to kind of take a step back and
Yeah.
wait to kind of catch up with the rest of, the taught sessions.
Yeah,
And I guess that can then throw you off
of
a little
course.
bit, and then it means then you're kind of then on your back foot, then trying to catch up then
Yeah.
afterwards. Yeah.
So there was a time in one of my modules and I had so much back reading done by the first week of the module. And I was just like, what do I do? Because we had to have our labs done and our reading done, but the labs weren't until like 3 weeks. So I had to like kind of sit down and like kind of sit in my like knowledge for a while. And obviously, as you're not like keeping up with it, it's kind of wasting away and your like momentum is kind of going as well. So at that 3 weeks when we finally had our labs, I I just didn't have like I didn't have the like fire in me anymore
Yeah.
to like continue being like studious and doing all the back
Yeah.
reading. And that really came to bite me back during exam season because like 2 weeks to exam, I was like, oh my God, I have nothing but the first like 4 weeks of content. So I guess like the pacing of the module as well definitely has something to do with like your momentum.
Yeah, and that's another really interesting point you raise, because you might be feeling really enthusiastic and wanting to sort of get ahead, so you do all your reading. But then once you've done all your reading, you feel like you might be just sort of sitting around twiddling your thumbs.
Yeah.
So what is it that you then do? I mean, I think the key is then sort of pacing yourself, isn't it? So maybe not doing too much, but then not doing too little,
Yeah.
so that you're sort of almost matching the module content. And I think that's really important. But again, something that you have to be mindful of, which is perhaps not so easy to do when you're feeling really motivated, or perhaps when you're at the other extreme, perhaps
Yeah.
feeling perhaps less motivated. But yeah. So no, that's really interesting. So I wanted to ask about sort of stress in itself. I mean, do you think stress is a negative? How do you view it?
I mean, in the moment, it's definitely a negative, but like in hindsight, after you've gone through it, you kind of see how much you do get up with like a bit of pressure on you.
Yeah. Do you surprise yourself?
Yes.
Yeah.
I do surprise myself.
Yeah.
I just surprised myself today.
Yeah.
I was working on my project and yesterday I had almost nothing and today I have a lot done. So I'm just like, how?
And do you attribute that to stress?
Yeah, definitely, because I was freaking out the whole time.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, stress can definitely be a plus. It like the pressure, it gets you going,
Yeah.
but obviously too much pressure, it cracks you, and like
Yeah.
too little pressure, you end up getting nothing done. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And do you like reflect back once you've completed a piece of work or an exam or assessment and think, oh, had I had more time on this or not been so stressed, I would have performed better? Or do you take the opposing view? Do you feel that the stress has spurred you on to actually do as well as you could have done?
I don't know. I view stress as like something that needs a sweet spot. When I get too stressed, I
Yeah.
do really badly because
Okay.
then I'm like too freaked out to actually bother about the quality of my work. Now I'm
Yeah.
just worried about getting it out there. And when I'm not stressed enough, of course, I'm not doing much because I'm not as like pressured and motivated to do more. I mean, some people have got the natural motivation. Some people are really interested in their like study. So they might not have to deal with that. But both, in my point of view, stress is both like something that is crucial and also something that should be avoided.
Yeah, I can see that. I really like your take on the fact that there's a sweet spot that a little bit of stress perhaps spurs you on
Yeah.
to get the job done. But at the same time, too much stress perhaps will kind of put too much pressure on you and mean that you're not performing as well as perhaps you would like to. So yeah, I think that's interesting because we often talk about stress. We often think about stress being a negative, but actually in some cases, stress can be the motivating factor.
Yeah.
Giving us a bit of a kick up the backside
Of
to
course.
get things done.
Yeah.
Yeah. So sort of kind of coming back to exam stress or assessment stress, what can we do then to counteract? Obviously, a little bit of stress, like we said, is not a bad thing, but how can we sort of do things perhaps more effectively, more productively to try and sort of make the best use of our time?
So I think the best way to go about that is to just make a timetable. So far, the best thing that's worked for me is like making some kind of timetable, and in that timetable, I put in how many hours like of rest I want. So I kind of split my semester into like 2 or 3, depending on the coursework I have. So based on that, I make timetables for each like section. So at the beginning of the semester, when I don't have much going on, I make it a bit more lax. I'm like, okay, I want to sleep 10, 12 hours, and I want to get like my weekends, I want to go out every Saturday night, every Sunday night. And then like gradually as we go in the term, I tweak it to fit the surrounding, like the environment of the pressure. So I'm not
So how could I ask, how often do you create that plan, or how often do you go back and revisit that plan?
usually, ideally, I just make one, like, oh wait, not one, like 3.
Yeah.
I divide it based on like
Each module.
based on like the assessments I have and all of that. So I divide the term to like focus my attention on what needs to be done at that moment. And then in those like sections, I kind of like curate how long I spend time on this and how long I spend time on that, and then how long I take breaks, what I do to relax, what I do when I do that is not academic but still a responsibility, things like that. I try to impute it into that timetable. And most times it works. Sometimes it doesn't. I have to go back and like change it. And I'm like, oh, I'm not doing enough. So let's put in more time. Let's take out a bit of time. I'm feeling a bit stressed. So that's how I work with it.
Yeah, no, that's so I think it comes across that you're being quite disciplined, but actually I think we kind of need to remember that although you might start off with sort of this idea that I'm going to be quite disciplined, I'm going to spend this much time on sleep and this much time studying and this much time sort of spending with friends, you can tweak it. So you can go back and tweak it as often as you like.
Go back and tweak it often, depending on how the environment, how the vibe is, how the term is feeling, how I'm currently doing mentally, even physically. Like if I'm sick, I might just like cancel it. We're not studying, we're not studying that day. If I'm just feeling unwell, tired, we'll put in a break or something like that.
Yeah, I think the fact that you are sort of quite adaptive to your plan is really effective because it means then that nothing is set in stone, that you can go back and change it. And what it also means is then that perhaps if you haven't done so much work one week, you can then perhaps make up for that the second week and vice versa. So it works really well. Do you find that you do stick to the plan then, if you go back and make those amendments?
Now, the thing is, the plan is there to be followed. A lot of times it doesn't get followed, but the whole point is to like get back on the plan. So if I notice that, today I was meant to study 8 hours and I studied maybe like 2, I'll go back and tweak it to like compensate for that. And I'm like, okay, I'm obviously not as focused this time around. So let's, let's not put too much pressure on studying and like stressing about studying.
Yeah.
Let's make it more flexible and relaxed. So let's say I'll go out with friends and then we all bring out our iPads and together we just have like an impromptu study group.
Okay.
But it's not really impromptu because I planned it.
Yeah, but it's a way of getting some work done.
Yeah.
So I really
and
like
tricking my friends to get theirs done too.
So it's kind of you've got like a bit of a you're ticking two boxes in the same activity. That's really interesting. I was just going to say I really like your approach where you're where perhaps you don't stick to a plan. You're not sort of beating yourself up about it. That you're then thinking, well, you know what, I can do something about this. It's not the end of the world.
The whole point is to like compensate.
Yeah.
Just if I see this week based on my plan I haven't done enough, then next week we carry it over to the next week and then we like spread it out.
I call that a rollover. So things roll over.
Yeah.
So I think what I like about that is that even if you don't get everything done in your plan, and perhaps you might feel that you've fallen a little bit behind, the thing is it keeps you mindful of the fact that you've got sort of an assessment looming or a deadline that you've got to meet. So even though you might not have done any work that week, having a plan is productive in itself because what it does is it keeps focus.
And me being in the med school, we've got the wellbeing services, so they definitely help out to like curate this plan as well. So you can literally just walk in and ask them to help you plan your weeks, your study schedules and all that, and they'll sit you down and go through it with you.
And do you have to make an appointment to speak with them?
Yeah. But I think most times you can have some luck if you just ask the front desk.
Okay, so that's a really useful sort of resource that you can make use of in terms of sort of getting you back on track for studying.
And I'm pretty sure if there's like other wellbeing services like throughout the uni, they do that as well. So
no, that's a really good suggestion. So sort of continuing, is there anything else that you feel helps you to be sort of productive during this sort of stressful period of exams or assessment submissions?
Walks. When I was in my second year, I had the toughest assessment yet. And in that time, I was just cooped up in the room. Like, I literally found out that the state of my room describes my mental state at that moment. So it was messy, I'm stressed. It was clean, I'm good. So I was cooped up in the room and I was just focusing on the work, and it was really getting up to me, like it was pressuring me. And eventually I was like, you know what, I can go outside. And it was sunny as well, and I missed like a whole bunch of sun. But the second I go out for like a 15-minute walk, clear my head a bit, I always come back with like more ideas. And if I feel like I don't want to walk that much and I really want to get back to doing it, I can just cut my walk short. So it definitely helped.
So factor in some breaks, factor in some time away. A break from the studies is really important.
It was to a point where I couldn't stand my room. Like I couldn't fall asleep in my room because I used to do my work in my room. So it also helps to not do your work in your room. My bed's comfortable, so I'm not going to learn a lesson from that, but I'm pretty sure someone else will.
So if possible, maybe have a separate study space.
I try to use like the living room, the dining room, because I don't have a like study area. But if you stay in like ACOMs, probably do have like a study area or like a study desk. So don't study in bed. It's a scam.
I sort of like the fact that you talked about having a break, going for a walk, cutting short your break, but it doesn't necessarily have to be a walk, does it? It could be sort of something
else. It could be anything. Yeah, it could be anything. I try to like stay away from like my phone, like and everything, just like go out. Or maybe if, I haven't seen my friends in a long time, I say, hey, you have to come out for a bit. Let's go get like a coffee. Let's go eat out a little bit. And then we just get back to work.
Brilliant. No, that's really great. Yeah, it's good to know that it doesn't always have to be work focused. And actually, it's probably a healthy way of approaching it, by sort of factoring in some breaks and some time away from your studies. And at least that way, when you come back to it, you feel like you've had a bit of a breather and your sort of mind is a little bit more refreshed, and you can sort of get back to being productive when you are sitting and actually working. So no, that's great. So I hope for our listeners that we've given them a little bit of a look of what stress may look like, both exam stress and assessment stress. I also think you've offered some really interesting suggestions on how we can perhaps alleviate some of that stress through planning, but also that we don't have to adhere to a plan so strictly. And also that it's really important to make time for yourself, time with friends, and having some time out. So thank you so much.
Thank you. It was nice to
it's
talk to you. I just want to also remind everyone that it's okay to be stressed. It's part of the experience of uni. You can't go through uni without going through some kind of stress, and sometimes will be way harder than other times. So, and you haven't gone through it before, so you can't really plan for something you have no experience in. So I think it's best to just go through your uni experience and enjoy it while it lasts before you go into adulthood.
So interesting bit of advice right at the end, but thank you very much, and I hope you've enjoyed listening.
Wow. What a great conversation packed with tips on how to deal with exam stress and general study as a university student. Now, if any of that conversation triggered you, then I suggest you go and speak with your wellbeing officer at the university that you're currently based in. If you need further support, then perhaps you want to talk with Samaritans or Papyrus or any other national intervention service. I'm sure that they'll be on hand to help you. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you on the next episode.